Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast. All right, we're back. I apologise in advance for my headphones. I'm sat on a balcony in Spain with my titties out because it's too hot. And obviously I don't have my camera.
So so basically you're looking at me today, and me only. You don't know. I don't know where Alex is. I think he was ill yesterday, so he's taken a leave of absence to sort himself out. I don't know what he's got. Luckily, he said it was a virus yesterday, and I was like, "Fuck, please don't be a virus," because that means that I would be getting it as well. So if Mike shits himself.
If Mike shits himself live on air, you know what's going on.
Yeah, if I just run off, it's because my bowels have gone. So hopefully not. I feel all right at the moment, so we'll try and get through it.
He's just still. I reckon he's still just extremely hungover from Glastonbury, and he just can't face it.
He was all right, to be fair. Like you say, we went for a quiet one. On Saturday, and he's come out the worst end of it, but. I'm all right.
I need to start a Help Alex campaign, I think. Campaign for Alex.
Donate. You can donate in bottom left corner to the cause.
Listeners must just think he's a raging alcoholic, but we promise he's actually got his head screwed on at times.
Not that bad.
All right, so we missed last week because I've been away in Greece for a family wedding, so I'm just kind of catching up, and I feel like I'm completely out of touch. Like I've been away for a week and just feel like I came back in as a beginner, so as it always happens. But I'm just around like 31,035, so up 1.2%. So it's broke at 31k level, which is always good to see. ETH up at 1955, relatively flat. Typical as I rotated my Bitcoin into ETH last night and it's still flat, but we can get into that in a second. 1.26 trillion total market cap. Binance inflows 92 million, up 219 million on the week. So it's positive to see cash flowing into Binance, not just the same kind of money sloshing around, and Fear and Greed is up to around 64. Definitely out of the neutral camp, starting to edge slowly closer to the greed side of the indicator, but it's still pretty good in my opinion. If you think back to 2020, 2021, we were sat around the 80s for multiple weeks on end, and all it just takes is like a huge sell to kind of cause a liquidation cascade. So still pretty good. People, apart from that one guy who's like net short, like God knows how much ETH on GMX, which is kind of funny to see.
Is that the one who just keeps topping it up, and he's just like underwater completely?
He's just got infinite money, and he's just making it worse, and he just won't. The only thing I can think of there is he might be doing like, that trade we were talking about before.
Delta neutral.
Yeah, so he might be staked in like Libra or Unsheath or somewhere where he's like long ETH, earning the yield and all the liquidity mining incentives. Then he's kind of short ETH on the other side, but I wouldn't understand why he'd be topping off unless he's adding to the long side as well. But people have started buying GMX, haven't they? Because if that liquidation happens, the GLP and GMX holders are going to be eating pretty well over that weekly kind of fee distribution. So something to keep an eye on, and that's a beauty of on chain, isn't it? Because you can just see where people's liquidations are, for better or worse.
I did see what was a bit funny though. Their volume was considerably down to what it had been, but I guess there's been like quite a few introductions of like perps protocols over the past 4 or 5 months anyway. So that could be in terms of just general distribution of where people go to find the perps now, compared to when GMX sort of had market share, didn't it, really?
Yeah, that's interesting as well, because we've covered Vertex a lot, which is like Vertex in the last 2 months is up to number 7. And like from 0 to going to number 7 in 2 months is kind of ridiculous. And I think they'll slowly start ever closing that gap, and probably end up looking similar to DYDX kind of volumes in the near future. And the reason for that is purely down to its essential limit order book with like an AMM built into it. So it makes it easy for traders, it makes it easy for liquidity providers, and they're just continually adding more and more assets. And they've just had a strategic investment from Wintermute, of all people. So like one of the last large market makers that aren't scared to kind of operate on chain. And so you're effectively getting paid to trade on there as well at the minute. So any volume you put through, you're earning like Vertex rewards, which will come live in like October. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, like I say, it's all personal preference, isn't it? And it always takes people a bit of time to adapt and change from their own preference. I think when new products come on the market, and it always takes the market a bit to decide what they're going to use and why they're going to use it, I guess. It's just people don't like change, do they? But slowly with innovations comes the change that sort of occurs with these protocols and where people flock to, especially with depending on like liquidity and stuff like that. If it's always the same liquidity, then you're always relying on these rotations in terms of narratives or even new innovations and using them platforms.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because we've seen this week. It's a kind of good segue, because like that Vela exchange, which is a GMX fork, they'd obviously been running this kind of half-baked airdrop campaign for God knows how long now. And people in like our Discord will know my kind of feelings behind the team who are running that marketing campaign. So I won't go too much into it. But and then the guy who'd put like $100 million worth of volume through the exchange had been paid like $500 in this airdrop campaign, and he was obviously number one. And the thing is, I don't get why protocols that are direct forks use airdrops. Like, you'd use an airdrop, in my opinion, and like correct me if I'm wrong, as like a customer acquisition channel and a customer acquisition tool, because you've got something new and unique. So like with Vertex, for example, kind of like an order book on chain, totally different to GMX, totally different to gains. So to try and get people to use it and then realize, oh, this is actually great, you have to have like that moat. So when they come in, they use it, and then you've got like user retention. But with a fork, what's the point of just giving out a shitload of your own tokens if it's exactly the same as GMX? And once you've kind of absorbed all the tokens from that protocol through that kind of airdrop campaign or liquidity mining campaign, and then you're just going to go back to where the best prices and the best volume and the most like volume traded is. It makes no sense. Like, you use an airdrop campaign if you've got a new product and you want people to use it and figure it out as a customer acquisition channel. But using it for forks just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You might as well set the tokens. Well, you'd be better setting the tokens on fire, to be honest.
Well, especially when the drop is such, like, it's so skewed that there's no actual advantage in it. Like, you've just sort of used it as like it's more like a gimmick, and you've just absolutely like used it as a bit more predatory, where you've took the volume from elsewhere, like with the promise of this airdrop, and then it's been an absolute shit show. And like I say, you put all that volume through, and then someone's rewarded by like with next to nothing. It was one of our writers, and he put, I put some volume on there and I got nothing. I was like, well, mate, if someone's put 100 million through and got $500, unless you've got something like absolutely up your sleeve, I don't think you're getting a penny.
Imagine how much he'd spent in fees putting that through as well. If it's like 0.01, it's oh god, I wouldn't be happy. Anyway, biggest winners. You've seen the Iceman. Do you know anything more on this? Because I've been away.
It's just been what I've been reading, like in terms of, I think their launch map in terms of this, what we're all going to make it token, whatever. And that was supposed to be in June, but like now past that, so it's a bit late. But there's this whole token generation event with the GMI liquidity launch. So in terms of that, I think if that allows like liquidity to be drawn into ICE, then it could be a bit of a catalyst. As well as that, I was reading that Danny's doing an AMA and he's got sort of a joker, like something up his sleeve, sort of joker card to play. And all I've read is that it could be Tetranode in terms of his involvement in the protocol. So I guess with ICE, it's a bet on Danny again.
It's the only one who can save us.
Yeah, Jesus. So I don't know. Like you say, it's one of them. Like stranger things have happened in the space in terms of, but it has got some traction. It was at like $0.7, and as of looking last night, it was up at $1.62. So it's been catching a decent bid really from the lows in April, and it's only worth like what 21 million, which really is still relatively low in terms of MCAP. So with the catalyst, they've got a whole roadmap that they're looking at roll out, so it could continue to do well if Danny comes out and it is some pretty big news and they continue to build. How long that lasts is always a different question, because we know that it's always that like sort of Mount Everest chart that you might get, but no, I just thought it was basically. So I just thought it was quite interesting just to see that catch a bit again, really.
What they're still launching on ZK Sync, aren't they?
Yeah, I'll have to double check that one. They were originally, yeah, and obviously you have your own thoughts on that. I've got a few questions to ask you on that actually in the background in terms of your thoughts on ZK Sync, because we've had a couple of interesting conversations this week, but yeah, there might be. Thing is, I guess it's with anything like new technology wise and like innovation wise, like will it become something? Like, will it get traction? Will it get real development on there? Obviously, for now, a lot of the shit that's been on there has just been total like laughing and scams, hasn't it? So
yeah, the amount of projects that jumped into our DMs asking us to cover them, and I was just like, absolutely not. That's just a ticking time bomb. That I'll wait for. There's no that kind of thing. We can cover like ZKs as a whole, but covering emerging protocols on there's absolutely no point in doing that, in my opinion. So, but I think he's going to just probably pull the same Avalanche playbook, like how he did with Time in Wonderland, being over into a new ecosystem, extreme, reaping the rewards of that. Probably gets a big handout from ZK Sync, and if anything, if Danny's back building and wanting to kind of come to the market, that tells you where we are at the start of the market. So I think it's kind of a bullish signal.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's
no way. He's not going to ship in a bear market. No way. He's not daft.
Like the rest of us.
So what's happening with Stargate? I seen this stat that you put in the notes.
Yeah, I was just like, again, it's more point of interest. Like we call it biggest winners, but I guess it's just point of interest from the market in general, and seeing some of the movements with like these newer protocols or emerging protocols over like DeFi 1.0. With Stargate, they've actually done more volume than the 3K pool, and they've done it at a higher capital efficiency. So they've got like more TVL, more volume, and they seem to be absolutely smashing it. And like, I guess again, it's when you're comparing apple and pears, isn't it? So is that something in future, if it continues to grow and sort of be the staple head for Layer Zero? Is it worth catching a bid at its current price now? It's only worth about 120 million. So even in a bull run, could it perform again? I haven't looked, to be honest, I haven't looked at it in comparison to how Curve's doing, but it's just interesting to see these big protocols and even in this market, they seem to be absolutely smashing it. I guess the caveat of all of that is there's a lot of messaging protocols being built at the moment, isn't there? So it's whether Stargate can like stay the course with everything else and all the innovation that comes with these messaging platforms if they're more efficient in terms of swaps, like cross-chain AMMs, stuff like that. What happens to the market share there, and where does the money flow once they start getting released?
And also, where does the money flow once the Layer Zero tokens actually released?
That is, yeah. Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Because like I'm pretty sure a drastic amount of that volume going through there is people hoping off the back of it that, I might get a bit of a rebate from like the Layer Zero airdrop. I know people who are literally farming that thing to death. Tapioca's second testnet got delayed because Layer Zero nodes effectively were getting spammed so hard that they couldn't deploy on testnet. So we'll see what happens. But again, like, to kind of round that point off with Vela and airdrop campaigns and stuff like that, I think it makes sense for the likes of a Stargate to do it, to attract users over, show them, because it's obviously a different way of bridging. It's definitely a little bit more seamless for someone, like if they're in competition with like Synapse or multi-chain. God knows if they're still even operating, but I think it makes more sense to get people used to using the bridge, because for me, it's like when you have like a specific aggregator that you use. Like I use Matcha all the time, even though I probably should use DeFi Llama aggregator. That's just second nature for me. So if they can kind of drum up enough interest based off the back of the airdrop, people start using it and it becomes second nature even after the fact of the airdrop. That's like job done with regards to like an airdrop campaign, in my opinion. But I just don't think that shit flies when it's a carbon copy fork of like Vela with DMX. So
absolutely. Right, so what are we on to? Are we going on biggest winners again? Or
yeah,
what are we saying?
We can just round it up with biggest losers, because like ARB make a unique compound. I don't know if this is off the back of the rumours of maybe Gary Gensler getting the boot, but that wasn't coming from a very reliable source, in my opinion. But they should be due a pump, in my opinion, anyway. And I also think those kind of products will be on Coinbase's base, and they'll probably get KYC, and they'll probably got a shitload of traction and volume when institutions start using those protocols in like a kind of semi-permissionless KYC environment on Coinbase L2. But anyway, I think what's more funny is the kind of NFT capitulation event that's been happening over the past couple of days. Because it's funny when it's not you, it's like, this is usually us losing our shit and losing our mind and wanting to jump off a cliff. But for once, it's the NFT crowds finally learned what it is to be a market participant and kind of had the asses to them. So and I think it was kickstarted by the second mint of the Azukis, and it was completely terrible. The team have made like 40 million. And
just 40 million.
And they sent it immediately to Coinbase, like the institutional Coinbase account. So it looks like they're about to like sell the ETH. And yes, there was a load of duplications from the first original mint. So yeah, it was just a big fucking shit show, and the art was just completely dog shit as well. So
it was just a complete replication. I don't know whose idea. Like, it's just hilarious, isn't it? Like, and obviously, in terms of like, people had minted them at X amount for the new version 2, and then there were the floor out of them, like the arse had fell out the floor of them, even from the mint, and were under mint price, whilst Azuki version 1 was down 7 or 8 ETH from where it had been. So yeah, it's just another. I just don't get some of the decisions that occur at the top in terms of these protocols like survive for so long, and then it just becomes a complete cash grab. Yeah. But like I say,
that must be the price, though, mustn't it? You know, every man has his price. 40 million.
40 million, yeah, and then just walk away. I know that they've got a DAO proposal out, haven't they, to hire a lawyer and then move. I think it's 20,000. It was whatever 20,000 ETH is, which probably is 38 million. I don't know. Can't do the math off the top of my head. But they've got a DAO proposal out, haven't they, to move that money, get a lawyer and move that money to the DAO, and then help grow the product from the DAO side instead of them taking control. And at the moment, or when I last looked, it had like 87% had said were saying that it was going to pass in terms of the vote they had. So God knows what happens then when it's going to be an Arbitrum like situation again where it's like, yeah, you might have governance vote, but it's not going to be a real governance vote because we're definitely not moving that money anywhere.
Yeah, it was like a total risk-free value player, wasn't it? But that's not going to happen. That's already spent. That's been spent in some super club in Miami. That.
Yeah, good. We just bought a yacht again.
But yeah, it was a weird one because we've been covering a lot of the NFT finance product and stuff like that, and this kind of shit wouldn't normally happen. But a lot of it was caused by a huge liquidation event. I think there was like 1,244 NFTs liquidated, so people depositing into an NFT lending and borrowing platform and then borrowing against it. And as I say, usually there's like 3 or 4 liquidations per day, and like over the last 96 hours there was, as I say, over 1,200 liquidations. So very out of the ordinary. But again, it just feels like the NFT crowd have just had the 2017 cycle 3K Bitcoin moment, or they're about to enter it, and it's just like, they're going to realize that they're probably just not in it for the tech or not in it for the art, and they're actually here for the and they're going to need to realize that very, very quickly. But I don't know. They'll be back stronger off the back of it anyway, I think. And it's just you need a big capitulation to get markets moving in the opposite direction anyway. So So it's the last thing you buy, isn't it? I guess from our perspective in DeFi, like NFTs is the last thing I'm thinking about when we're in this sort of market, anyways, because like it was always market greed when we were throwing X amount at stupid mints because we had the cash. When you're in this market, it's a bit of a different question. Yeah. I mean, Kampai Pandas, Pudgies, Laps, Tapioca Pearl Club. That's all.
Yeah, but they're different. Like this is the thing. It's like utility and branding, and I guess like when there's something bigger behind it, and it's not a complete like just a cash grab, then there's value there, and NFTs are going to have to adapt as much as DeFi has to, I guess, in terms of creating that value that people are willing to pay the money for them. Really.
Yeah, so we're going to charge like 2 ETH for the laps, and then we're going to off ramp it as soon as it happens, and then we're going to go and spend it all in a Miami Super Club.
Not quite. Yeah. All right. Well, that I think
I'm just going to
today.
Yeah, I think that's it. I was just going to say I had to caveat that by just saying, just kidding, because some of the responses that we've had to it's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. It's all to be going back into the Blocmates brand and to help us build. Jesus. Yeah, that is all for today. We don't have our chaperone Alex to keep us in check, so we're a bit over. But we've done all right again.
Yeah, he's head's in a toilet. All right. Well, we'll be back on Thursday. So take it easy, everyone. Speak to you next time.